awesome crowd. Thank you for coming out this evening. Welcome to the Tabula Poetica reading series. I want to mention that our next event is on November 5th. There will be a 2:30 poetry talk and a 7 o'clock reading, and that's by poet and psychotherapist Nina Corwin, and it's co-sponsored by Schmid College of Science and Technology. Before we get started, as I'm sort of acknowledging people, pull out your cell phone and make sure that it's turned off. I want to thank a whole bunch of people, and maybe we can do some clapping after this first round. The main supporter of Tabula Poetica is the English department, and this evening we have the chair of the English department, Joanna Levin. Where are you, Joanna? Raise your hand. All right, stand up, Joanna Levin, and also my colleague Richard Bausch up here in the front row. He's dear friends with C.K. Williams, the poet, this evening, and he was instrumental in bringing the poet here this evening. I also want to thank Debbie Thacker, who's the admin in the English department, and has answered a lot of my emails in the last 2 days to make sure that everything was arranged for the events today. And also my graduate assistant for Tabula Poetica, Michael Tesaro. Where are you, Michael? All right. And of course, here we are in Leatherby Libraries, and this is an amazing space, of course, full of books outside this room and full of poetry this evening. And that's made possible in large part by Dean Charlene Baldwin, who also has sponsored the reception with the fine refreshments. So let's give Charlene a round of applause. Her assistant, Lori Casali, is also absolutely amazing. And we really appreciate the library's support. Almost all of our evening readings are held here in the library. This poet and a couple of the others in the series are not only poets themselves, but also translators. And so we've worked with the Department of Languages to co-host these events. So we have a thread of translation running through the series this year. And I'm very proud that we're expanding and becoming more interdisciplinary so that I can sneak poetry into the curriculum all over the place. This evening, we're really pleased to have the president of the university introduce our poet. So without further ado, I'd like to give you Jim Doty.
Thank you, Anna, and thank you again, Richard, for bringing such a distinguished poet to Chapman University. It's great to see such a terrific crowd this evening. I want to thank Tabula Poetica. It was started in 2009, and it has sponsored this series of talks and readings, and it seems, Anna, like the crowd keeps getting larger and larger. We are truly fortunate this evening to have C.K. Williams with us. He is a poet with an extensive and wide-ranging background. In 2000, his book Repair won both the Pulitzer Prize, and 3 years later, his book The Singing won the National Book Award. In 2005, the Poetry Foundation awarded Williams the Ruth Lilly Prize, which is given for lifetime accomplishments that warrant extraordinary recognition. C.K. Williams is also a renowned translator, get this, working with Greek, Polish, and French texts. And as Anna said, since this year's series includes a focus on translation, and the fact that C.K. Williams is part of that focus, it's particularly a pleasure to have you with us and be part of our university campus. In addition, C.K. Williams wrote a critical study of the American poet Walt Whitman and he has served as Chancellor of the Academy of American Poets. He also just recently retired from Princeton University, which of course you know is the Chapman University of the East. I'm going to read a second section of a poem of C.K. Williams. I hope you don't mind, and I hope it's not in your program. If it is, I'm sure you will read it much better than I, because this one in particular resonated with me. It's called The Gaff, and I think probably resonates with all of us because we've all committed gaffes, the kind of gaffes that crushing and something we never forget will always, many of them are always with us, and probably not very significant to everyone else that you know, your friends and so on. And I wish I could read the whole thing, but I'll just read the second section. It calls to mind the power of poetry. I just saw a fabulous movie, by the way. It's called Poetry, a Korean film. I don't know if any of you have seen it, but if you're a fan of poetry, be sure to see it. It just came out a year ago, and for those of you who understand how poetry can be transformative in one's life, I think you will enjoy it. So I will read this, the second section. The Gaff by C.K. Williams. The son of some friends of my parents has died, and my parents, paying their call, take me along, and I'm sent out with the dead boy's brother and some others to play. We're joking around, and words come to my mind, which to my amazement are said. How do you know when you can laugh when somebody dies? Your brother dies, is what's said. The others go quiet. The backyard goes quiet. Everyone stares. And I want to know now why that someone in me, who's me yet, not me, let me say it. Shouldn't he have told me the contrition cycle would from then be ever upon me? It didn't matter that I'd really only wanted to know how grief ends and when. Well, that's not the whole poem, so I'll let you go out and get it and see how it ends. Very powerful poem. And if poetry is that literature, art form that is basically special intensity that allows us to express one's feelings, that poem certainly does it. Indeed, the body of work, the remarkable body of work of C.K. Williams does that. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to this audience, to Tabula Poetica, C.K. Williams.
Just told to project. Now, if someone had said to me, the president of a university is going to read part of one of your poems, I would have said, oh boy. But you read it very, very well. Thank you. In fact, it's often, not often, but too often when one is reading, giving a reading and one is introduced, often by other poets, and they read a part of one of your poems, it's a sort of disaster. You think, oh my God, they're destroying the poem. But you really read it very well. Thank you. An applause. So this afternoon I gave a talk entitled Autobiography with Translation. Everybody hear me back there? I'm projecting as well as I can. And I'm not going to do that quite, but I decided to go through all my books, except the first, I won't bother, and just read one poem from every book up until I get close to the present, and then I'll read more. So this poem is called Yours. I'd like every girl in the world to have a poem of her own I've written for her. I don't even want to make love to them all anymore, just write things. Your body makes me delirious. Your face enchants me. You are a wonder of soul, spirit, intelligence, one for everyone. And then the men, I don't care whether I can still beat them all. Them too, a poem for them. How many? Seeing you go through woods like part of the woods, seeing you play piano, seeing you hold your child in your tender, devastating hands. And of course, children to children too, little poems they could sing or dance to. This is our jumping game, this our seeing game, our holding each other. Even the presidents with all their death, the congressmen and judges, I'd give them something they could hold awed to their chest as their proudest life thing. Somebody walking along a road where there's no city would look up and see his poem coming down like a feather out of nowhere, or on the assembly line, new instructions, a voice sweet as lunchtime. Or she would turn over a stone by the fire, and if she couldn't read, it would sing to her in her body. Listen, everyone, you have your own poem now. It's yours as much as your heart, as much as your own life is. You can do things to it, shine it up, iron it, dress it in doll clothes. Oh men, oh people, please stop how it's happening now. Please, I'm working as fast as I can. I can't stop to use periods. Sometimes I draw straight lines on the page because the words are too slow. I can only do one at a time. Don't die first, please. Don't give up and start crying or hating each other. They're coming. I'm hurrying. Be patient. There's still time. Isn't there? Isn't there? Thank you. Now, what I need a small pile of books to prop up my book. So let me borrow those two. And there's a couple more, and that should do it. Thank you. I'm at the age where my glasses can't figure out how I see. Okay. Now we're going to skip ahead. This is called The Shade. A summer cold, no rash, no fever, nothing. But a dozen times during the night, I wake to listen to my son whimpering in his sleep, trying to snort the sticky phlegm out of his nostrils. The passage clears, silence, nothing. I cross the room, groping for the warm, elusive creature of his breath, and my heart lunges, stutters, tries to race away. I don't know from what. From my imagination, from life itself, maybe from understanding too well and being unable to do anything about how much of my anxiety is always for myself. Whatever it was, I left it when the dawn came. There's a park near here where everyone who's out of work in our neighborhood comes to line up in the morning. The converted school bus shuttling hands to the cannery fields in Jersey were just rattling away when I got there, and the small-time contractors hiring out cheap walls, cheap ditches, cheap everything were loading laborers onto the sacks of plaster and concrete in the backs of their pickups. A few housewives drove by looking for someone to babysit or clean cellars for them. Then the gates of the local bar unlaced, and whoever was left drifted in out of the wall of heat, all rolling in with the first fists of smoke from the city incinerators. It's so quiet now. I can hear the sparrows foraging scraps of garbage on the paths. The stove husk chained as a sign to the store across the street creaks in the last breeze of darkness. By noon, you'd have to be out of your mind to want to be here. The park will reek of urine, bodies will be sprawled on the benches, men will wrestle through the surf of broken bottles. But even now, watching the leaves of the elms softly lifting toward the day, softly falling back, all I see is fear forgiving fear on every page I turn. All I know is every time I try to change it, I say it again, my wife, my child, my home, my work, my sorrow. If this were the last morning of the world, if time had finally moved inside us and erupted, and we were Agamemnon again, Helen again, back on the faint beginning planet where even the daily survivals were giants filled with light, I think I'd still be here, afraid or not enough afraid, silently howling the names of death over the grass and asphalt. The morning goes on, the sun burning, the earth burning, and between them part of me lifts and starts back past the wash of dead music from the bar, the drinker reeling on the curb, the cars coughing alive, and part, buried in itself, stays forever, blinking into the glare, freezing. This is a poem that Dick asked me to read. Somebody just made a movie of one of my books of poetry, James Franco. He plays me. It's not a movie I'm happy with. Except this poem called My Mother's Lip. Jessica Chastain plays my mother, and she's really cool. Also, she has red hair, and so did my mother, so my mother would have been very happy. My Mother's Lips. Until I asked her to please stop doing it and was astonished to find that she not only could, but from the moment I asked her, in fact, would stop doing it. My mother, all through my childhood, when I was saying something to her, something important, would move her lips as I was speaking, so that she seemed to be saying under her breath the very words I was saying as I was saying them. Or even more disconcertingly, wildly so now that my puberty had erupted before I said them. When I was smaller, I must just have assumed that she was omniscient. Why not? She knew everything else. When I was tired or lying, she'd know I was ill before I did. I may even thought, how could it not have come into my mind, that she caused what I said? All she was really doing, of course, was mouthing my words a split second after I said them myself. But it wasn't until my own children were learning to talk that I really understood how, and understood, too, the edge of anxiety in it, the wanting to bring you along out of the silence, the compulsion to lift you again from those blank caverns of namelessness we encase. That was long afterward, though. Where I was now was just wanting to get her to stop, and considering how I brooded and raged in those days, how quickly my teeth went on edge, the restraint I approached her with seems remarkable, although her so unprotestingly, readily taming a habit by then, 3 children and a dozen years old, was as much so. It's endearing to watch us again in that long ago dusk, facing each other, my mother and me. I've just grown to her height, or just past it. There are our lips moving together. Now the unison suddenly breaks. I have to go on by myself. No maestro, no score to follow. I wonder what finally made me take umbrage enough, or hard enough, to confront her. It's not important. My cocoon at that age was already unwinding, the threads ravel and snarl. When I find one again, it's that 2 o'clock in the morning, a grim hotel on a square, the impenetrable maze of an endless city, when really alone for the first time in my life, I found myself leaning from the window, incanting in a tearing whisper what I thought were poems. I'd love to know what I raved that night to the night, what those innocent dithyrambs were, or to feel what so ecstatically drew me out of myself and beyond. Nothing is there, though. Only the solemn piazza beneath me, the riot of dim-tiled roofs and impassable alleys, my desolate bed behind me, and my voice hoarse, and the sweet alien air against me like a kiss. For those of you who are at my translation autobiography today, that was the story I said I'd mention tonight, that about suddenly being transported in a hotel, pension room in Florence and starting to spout poetry out the window. Lord knows what it was. So here we're in a realm of shorter poems. I read a little series on love. This one is called Love Beginnings. They're at that stage where so much desire streams between them, so much frank need and want, so much absorption in the other and the self-admiring entity and unity they make. Her mouth so full, breast so lifted, head thrown back so far in her laughter at his laughter. He so solid, planted, oaky, firm, so resonantly factual in the headiness of being craved so she almost wreathed upon him as they intertwine again, touch again, cheek, lip, shoulder, brow, every glance moving toward the sexual, every glance away, soaring back in flame into the sexual, that just to watch them is to feel again that hitching in the groin, that filling of the heart, the old sore heart, the battered, foundered, faithful heart, snorting again, stamping in its stall. I'll read one more about love that's not so great. Love, wrath. He was very much the less attractive of the two, heavy set, part punk, part LL Bean. The first time I read that in England, they don't know what LL Bean is, so how do you explain what is LL Bean? At that time, it was people dressing to imitate what they thought English people dress like. Love, wrath. He was very much the less attractive of the two, heavy-set, part punk, part LL Bean, both done ineptly, his look as brutal as the bullies who tormented you in second grade. She was delicate and pretty. What she was suffering may have drawn her features finer. As I went by, he just crossed his arms and said, "You're the one who's fucking us all up." He snarled it with a cruelty which made him look all the more a thug, and which astonished me, that he would dare to speak to her like that, be so unafraid of losing her unlikely beauty. But still, I knew love, what he was feeling, the hungering for reason, for fair play, the lust for justice, all the higher systems go, the need, the fear, the awe burned away. I wrote a series, I'm not going to have time to read it. I'm obsessively jealous of my wife and any other female I happen to be near, I think. And I wrote a series of poems on jealousy, which I'm probably tempting you. Oh, I'll read this one, which isn't too long. It's called The Mirror. It's a whole series of 14 poems of different aspects of jealousy. I thought it would cure my jealousy. It refined it. The mirror. The way these days she dresses with more attention to go out to pass the afternoon alone, shopping or just taking walks, she says, than when they go together to a restaurant or party. It's such a subtle thing. How even speak of it? How imagine he'd be able to explain it to her? The way she looks for such long moments in the mirror as she gets ready, putting on her makeup. The way she looks so deeply at herself, gazes at her eyes, her mouth, down along her breasts. What is he to say? That she's looking at herself in ways he's never seen before, more carnally? She would tell him he was mad or say something else he doesn't want no matter what to hear. The way she puts her jacket on with a flourish, the way she gaily smiles going out the way the door slams shut, the way its latch clicks shut behind her so emphatically. What is he to think? What is he to say? To whom? The mirror, jacket, latch, the awful door? He can't touch the door. He's afraid he'll break the frightening covenant he's made with it. He can't look into the mirror either. That dark, malicious void. Who knows what he might see? The Neighbor. This is a poem about a college romance, among other things. You won't believe how long these little romances you have will stay with you. The Neighbor. At the end, there's a reference to the god, and the god is Dionysus, the god of passion, sex, alcohol, other things. And Medea was the sorceress who is betrayed and ends up killing her own children in Greek mythology. The Neighbor. Her 5 horrid, deformed little dogs who incessantly yap on the roof under my window. Her cats, God knows how many, who must piss on her rugs, her landings a sickening reek. Her shadow once fumbling the chain on her door, then the door slamming fearfully shut. Only the barking and the music, jazz, filtering as it does day and night into the hall. The time it was Chris Connor singing Lush Life, how it brought back my college sweetheart, my first real love, who, till I left her, played the same record and head on my shoulder, hand on my thigh, sang sweetly along of regrets and depletions she was too young for, as I was too young later to believe in her pain. It startled, then bored, then repelled me. My starting to fancy she'd ended up in this fire trap in the village, that my neighbor was her, my thinking we'd meet, recognize one another, become friends, that I'd accomplish a penance, my seeing her, it wasn't her, at the mailbox, gray yellow hair, army pants under a nightgown, her turning away, hiding her ravaged face in her hands, muttering an inappropriate hi. Sometimes there are frightening goings-on in the stairwell, a man shouting, "Shut up," the dogs frantically snarling, claws scrabbling. Then her voice hoarse, harsh, hollow, almost only a tone, incoherent, a note, a squeak, bone on metal, metal gone molten, calling them back. Come back, darlings, come back, dear ones, my sweet angels, come back. Medea she was, next time I saw her, sorceress, tranced, ecstatic, stock still on the sidewalk, ragged coat hanging agape, passers-by flowing around her, her mouth torn suddenly open as though in a scream, silently though, as though only in her brain or breast had it erupted, a cry so pure, practiced, detached, it had no need of a voice or could no longer bear one. These invisible links that allure, these transformations even of anguish that hold us. The girl, my old love, the last lost time I saw her when she came to find me at a party, her drunkenly stumbling, falling, sprawling, skirt hiked, eyes veined red, swollen with tears, her shame, her dishonor, my ignorant, arrogant coarseness, my secret pride, my turning away. Still life on a rooftop, dead trees and barrels, a bench, broken dogs, excrement, sky. What pathways through pain, what junctures of vulnerability, what crossings, encounterings. Too many lives in our lives already, too many chances for sorrow, too many unaccounted for pasts. Behold me, the God of frenzied, inexhaustible love says, rising in bloody splendor. Behold me. Her making her way down the littered vestibule stairs, one agonized step at a time. My holding the door, her crossing the fragmented tiles, faltering at the step to the street, droning, not looking at me. Can you help me? Taking my arm, leaning lightly against me, her wavering step into the world, her whispering, thanks, love, lightly, lightly against me. When that poem came out in a magazine in the New Yorker, a letter came to me, the New Yorker, and on the envelope was written, I'm the woman in the poem. And indeed it was. But now for something a little lighter. This is called Gas. Wouldn't it be nice, I think, when the blue-haired lady in the doctor's waiting room bends over the magazine table and farts just a little and violently blushes? Wouldn't it be nice if intestinal gas came embodied in visible clouds so she could see that her really quite inoffensive pop had only barely grazed my face before it drifted away? Besides, for this to have happened now is a nice coincidence because not an hour ago while we were on our walk, my dog was startled by a backfire and jumped straight up in the air like a horse bucking. And that brought back to me the stable I worked on weekends when I was 12, and a splendid piebald stallion who, whenever he was mounted, would buck just like that, though more hugely, of course, enormous, gleaming, resplendent. And the woman, her face abashedly buried in her L now, reminded me I'd forgotten that not the least part of my awe consisted of the fact that with every jump he took, the horse would powerfully fart, flap, 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 something never mentioned in the dozens of books about horses and their riders I devoured in those days. All that savage grandeur, the steely glinting hooves, the eruptions driven from the creature's mighty innards, breath stopped, heart stopped, nostrils madly flared. I didn't know if I wanted to break him or be him. Another change of mood. This happened. It happens in France. I refer to a lycée. I live in France part of the time. A lycée, of course, is a French high school. This happened. A student, a young woman, in a fourth-floor hallway of her lycée, perched on the ledge of an open window, chatting with friends between classes. A teacher passes and chides her. Be careful, you might fall. Almost banteringly chides her. You might fall. And the young woman, 18, a girl really, though she wouldn't think that, as brilliant as she is, first in her class, and beautiful too, she's often told, smiles back and leans into the open window, which wouldn't even be open if it were winter. If it were winter, someone would have closed it. Close it. Leans into the window farther, still smiling farther and farther, though it takes less time than this, really an instant, and lets herself fall. A casual impulse, a fancy, never thought of until now, hardly thought of even now. No, more than impulse or fancy. The girl knows what she's doing. The girl means something. The girl means to mean, because it occurs to her in that instant that beautiful or not, bright yes or no, she's not who she is. She's not the person she is. And the reason she suddenly knows is that there's been so much premeditation where she is, so much plotting and planning. There's hardly a person where she is, or if there is, it's not her or not wholly her. It's a self inhabited, lived in by her, and seemingly even as she thinks it, she knows what's been missing. Grace, not premeditation, but grace, a kind of being in the world spontaneously, with grace. Waitfully upon me was the world, waitfully this self which graced the world, yet never wholly itself. Waitfully this self which weighed upon me, the release from which is what I desire and what I achieve. And the girl remembers in this infinite instant, already so many times divided, the grief she felt once, hardly knowing she felt it, to merely inhabit herself. Yes, the girl falls, absurd to fall. Even the earth with its compulsion to take unto itself all that falls must know that falling is absurd. Yet the girl falling isn't myself, or she is myself, but a self I took of my own volition unto myself. Forever, with grace, this happened. Okay, we'll move a little closer to the present. This is from the book Wait. I'll read I'll read a sex poem. We haven't had much sex here tonight. Some implied, but not real. All I have to do is find it. This poem is called Back. Anybody here sexually shy? Might want to hold your ears. Nobody's holding their ears. No, one guy was. Back. First I did my thing, that's to say her thing, to her for her. Then she did her thing, I mean my thing, to me for me. Then we did our thing together. Then again, the other way though. Then once more that way again. Then we were done and we were at dinner. Though I desperately miss the other things now and said so. Don't you know I can't enjoy anything else now? And still love tipsy, love stunned. Ever, I said, I'll never enjoy anything else ever again. Except I also meant this. I mean this being together thinking of that. Or not even her thinking, who knows what she's thinking. I mean me thinking of that, of her thinking and thinking. But now that I've told her, told you, are we then back to again that? Yes, and thank goodness I'm back there. We're back there. I missed you out here by myself, even thinking of that, which is why I had to do all this thinking to take us, even in such a partial way, back. Now here's a sadder love sex poem. It's called Wood. That girl I didn't love, then because she was going to leave me, loved. That girl, that Sunday when I stopped by and she was in bed in her nightgown, it only came to me later that someone else had just, good God, been with her. That girl, when my hand touched her belly under her plush mesh nightgown, began turning her belly to wood. I hadn't known this could be done, that girls, that humans could do this. Then, when all her belly was wood, she began turning the rest of herself to perhaps something harder, steel or harder. Perhaps she was turning herself, her entire once so soft self, to some unknown mineral substance found only on other very far planets, planets with chemical storms and vast cold ammonia oceans of ice. And I just had to pretend I wasn't taking this lightly. I wasn't a kid anymore, that I wasn't one of those pitted potato chip moons with precarious orbits. And then I was out in the street. It was still Sunday, though I don't recall bells. And she, where did she go? Dear figment, dear fragment, where are you now? In your nightgown, in your bed, steel and wood. Dear steel, dear wood. Closer to the present. This is also part of my autobiography for those who were still continuing my autobiography. This is the present. It's called Whacked. There's a reference in it to George Herbert, who was the great Renaissance poet, religious poet, he was both a religious poet and a sexy poet. He never says that. He just says, I'm not going to talk about sweet, sexy, lulling things, am I? But he says it so sexily and lullingly. Whacked. Every morning of my life, I sit at my desk getting whacked by some great poet or other. Some Yeats, some Auden, some Herbert or Larkin, and lately a whole tribe of others, younger than me. Whack, wiped out every day. I mean, since becoming a poet. I mean, wanting to. One never is really a poet, or I'm not when I'm trying to write. Though then comes a line, maybe another, but still pops up again, Yeats say, and again, whacked. Wait. Old brain in my head, I'd forgotten that whacked in crime movies means murdered, rubbed out by the mob. Little the mob guys would think the poets could do it, and who'd believe that instead of running away, you'd find yourself fleeing towards them. Some sweet-seeming bishop who's saying so, but whack. You're stampeding again through her poems like a Mustang. Whack so hard that you bash the already broken crown of your head on the roof of your stall. What a relief for a while to read some bad poems. Still, I try not to. Bad, whackless poems can hurt you, can say you're all right when you're not, can condone your poetry coward who compulsively asks if you're all right. Am I all right? Not wasting your time. Am I wasting time? Though you know you are wasting time if you're not being whacked. Bad poems let you off that, the confessional mode now. I've read reams. I've written as many. Meanwhile, this morning, this very moment, I'm thinking of George Herbert composing. I see him by himself in some candlelit chamber, unbearably lonely to us, but glorious to him. And he's hunched over, scribbling, and the room's filling with poems whacking at me. And Herbert's not even paying attention as the huge tide of them rises and engulfs me in warm tangles of musical down, as from the breast of the choiring dawn tangling larks. Lovely, enchanting language, sugar cane, whack, the sweet strains, the lullings, whack, Lowell or Keats, Rilke or Wordsworth or Wyatt, whack, 50 years of it, old racehorse, plug hauling its junk. Isn't it time to be put out to pasture? But I'd still, if I could, lie down like a mare giving birth, arm in my own uterine channel to tug out another, one more, only one more, poor damp little poem. Then I'll be happy, I promise, I swear. Now I'm going to read some newer ones. I'm going to start this series with a poem about global warming, climate change. Uh-oh. Except I don't have the second page. Hang on a minute. Oh, shoot. Well, I'm not going to because I lost the second page. I'll finish with one instead. Nothing in, is there anything in there? The second page. Okay. No. But nobody, they're too young to understand it. They're children. Pretty ones, but.
You gotta read it, it's terrific.
These are very new poems. That's from last week. The one I was going to read that I probably unconsciously left the second page of. I just finished this morning. Always a bad thing to read. I'll read it soon, but this one is called The Economy Rescued by My Mother Returning to Shop. I sleep as always these dark days a quiver. I awake a tremble. My legs jerk. I thrash like a gaffed shark. No, not shark. Too many sharks already. Fiscal, financial. That's why, gullible guppy I was, I thought the boom wouldn't bust, the bubble not burst, shred, leave us hanging over this thorny, dollarless void. Markets staggered, sales down the chute, confidence off the cliff, the aisles of the box stores and chains, depeopled ghost towns. Even the parking lots empty, the lane lines in martial formation, like wings stripped of their feathers, forlornly signaling for interstellar relief. How not quiver, not jerk and thrash. Wait. Don't give up too soon. Here comes my mother back from beyond, and she's going to shop. Avid, sharp-eyed, alert, gleaming and beaming, as she always was in our old bus expeditions downtown, with a vigilance keen and serene, and hands entities sentient and shrewd, cunningly separate from her, evolved to analyze things intrinsic or better, overlooked worth as they collate the goods on their racks, a blouse in silk and on sale, which she shows an admiring mirror and opens her wallet and buys as that president told us we should, though only my mother has sufficient passion to effect this. Didn't I once watch her unwrap a pair of new shoes to inhale the scent of their unblemished soles? In the very next quarter, didn't the GNB begin to stir, the number of long-term unemployed slip because of my mother's single-minded devotion to the subtlest aspects of commerce and exchange? And all this after growing up poor in my grandmother's half-starving green pea kitchen, and after surviving depression and war. How did she garner so much abstruse lore on redistribution? How accrue so many practical speculations about we'd need to correct these failures and flops? Delighted the gods of money must be to behold her again as she conveys herself through their portals. Here's ingenious Hephaestus devising for our enchantment, his gadgets and gizmos and glitter. And here Hermes, publicity, marketing, sales, not Hermes, shrine for the rich and pretend rich. And vast Hades, who lurks in the fear beneath all, waiting to drag us down to the realm of dire want, where a hound with three heads, a bankers, a hedge funders, and underprime mortgage brokers snarls, as my mother, who once filched from her sister coin she didn't have to buy me an ice cream, croons as she crooned then, make it last, and retires to her couch and opens her credit card statement and pays. Isn't it splendid to be able to pay for your new skirt, your sheer stockings, your eau de toilette, and so redeem the Dow and the NASDAQ and hallow us all for our humble hungers, our almost innocent greed? That's the first time I've read that, you could probably tell. Here's the one that Professor Bausch wants me to read. It dates both him and I. It's called Little Hymn to Time. Dada Freud, Mama Marx, Brother Barth. What a theory zoo to do your adolescence in. Everything been figured out, superego dialectic structure dreams, such fun, but then, oh my, reality arrives. The sergeant at the draft board roaring if we ran away, they'd drag us back in chains. I was ready to desert before I had my gun. It hardly mattered, though, they didn't need us then. There wasn't any war. Horrid Heil Hitler, you were dead. Stinky Stalin in your bloody tunic, too. No war, no chains. I'd wriggled free. And there was all this wild new music. What to do but dance? Even after Cuba came and NAM and no more wriggling free, you could dim your brain with pot, break your brain with acid, and if you hadn't, you could make believe you had, so still could dance. And this was splendid, better, best, could fuck yourself and any female you could find to bliss. Chant to me of Baba bliss, choir to me your fee-fi-fo of fucking, your merry ground of tangled beds. What matter if the world wasn't as we thought it would, be cured of everything but peace and bliss? What matter just so long as we could dance and fuck? Who in half a century will care if we were wrong? Dance away the years, we thought, leave the lie behind. But isn't it still in you? Isn't it still you? I close my eyes and there we are again. I can hear the music, but who knows what any of it meant? Gone the dancing, gone the bliss, just those errors and illusions that stud our ancient hearts like nails. So I will now read a poem about global warming. A few years ago, I realized one summer that I was writing nothing but, I was trying to write nothing but poems about global warming. And recently that started again. And this time I thought, instead of fighting it, I'm gonna write them. Because it's really the most important thing that's happening in the world right now. And really the most frustrating. I'll give a small political lecture here. I think that the basis of politics, especially in a democracy, should be two words. It should be what if. What if I'm wrong? What if I'm right? What if you're wrong? What if you're right? Now, there are people who believe in global warming and who want to do something about it. What if they're wrong? What's lost? Probably some money and attention and political conflict. Then there are people who, quote, don't believe in global warming as though it's a divinity. What if they're wrong? And nothing is done. Okay, here's the poem. It's called The Sun, the Saint, the Sot. O sun, bright star, our star, nearest, dearest, how solacing you remain, how consoling your illuminations. What relief on a day in our epoch of dire planet anguish to have you flinging your reliable light. O cosmological fastballer, underwelling only to the demented, like that saint who conceived you, quote, groaning for deliverance, unquote, which he promised in the end you'd, quote, trade your shining carapace for, unquote. Deliverance? Carapace? Son, can you hear my teeth grinding? Can you hear my dried out, battered brain, my already broken down thought thing rattling like a bean in a gourd down a hill in a hailstorm? It's because they're still here with us, the soul gobblers, the god-slobbering carapace snatchers who stalk from their altars to government chambers to blight what's left of our earthly adventure. Wrenching, no, shameful, hideous, frightening to admit I too once yearned to believe as they do because I desired, craved the peace Buddha and Blake and innocent Gospel Thomas kept humming about, because I wished rapture as much as the tits, thighs, and asses that obsessed me in truth more, as now the future, the inferno doom of our darling Earth's future obsesses me even more than that. O future, O earth orphan, that you, irresistible gleamer, cunningly coaxed into your orbit. Our world in its robes of azure and lace is dimming. We have to behold its darkening denouements. And where are the Bibles to buoy me? Where are the Vedas, the I Chings, the shamanic ravings, whose useless pages I stuff myself with in the abyss of my intellectual, spiritual uncoming of age? Back in the story, what happens next, I'm sure you'll recall, all beholder. Philosophy finds me, philosophy, with the swirl of its logical cape and its chariot of gilded conceptual calves, comes to me in the form of that teacher in college with lamentable teeth, the same alarming gray hue as his hair, who gazed out the window as he lectured and sometimes would drift to a stop and smile to himself because he finally admitted he was content because he was a follower of Berkeley and Kant and their ilk, who conclusively proved that only mind and its mental object exist. And yes, I thought, yes, that's the answer I need, because weren't they saying that nothing was real except in my psyche? Even you, son, were a match flare. Nothing actual was true, and if I wanted to, I could make it all stop. As now I find myself telling it all to just stop. I find myself pleading, just all go away, the glaciers melting, the tundra turning to methane, the oceans rotting to scum. Blot them, erase them. But here's my professor again, and here I am noting that more often than not in class he was tipsy, and the rumor that he spent weekends self-exiled on Skid Row must have been tragically true. So how could I not understand that this was where such epistemological hijinks would lead me? To drink hemlock and lie down with the nameless and shameless and hope again it would all go away. Thus were you saved, mighty unflincher. Now, as craven as we are before our wounded world, save us. Let us linger in your lethal warmth. Don't scant our spinnings, please, in the great celestial waltz. Thank you.
I just want to say that I found this reading absolutely amazing, and I'm very grateful that C.K. Williams added his voice to Tabula Poetica. And in particular, I want to thank you for reading the poem about how your mother's shopping for shoes saved the economy, because I think President Doty has been looking for an excuse to add poetry to Chapman University's economic forecast, and C.K. Williams is the way to do it. The poet will stick around for a few minutes if you have a book to sign or want to ask a specific question. I appreciate everyone being here to celebrate poetry. I hope you'll come back again to Tabula Poetica. Thank you.